All right.
Start.
All right. 1, 2, 3. So, typically we do small talk. Do you just want to get into it today?
Yeah, man. I think
lead off from what we did last episode.
I think last episode was a pretty good segue into this episode, right?
Yeah.
But before we get into it, let's do the intro.
Yeah.
I got a little intro for you today, man.
Let's do it.
So typically I would go, welcome back to the Prop Culture Podcast. I am your host, Matt Trader, but today I'm not going to do all that because after the last couple episodes, I'm going to have to bring in a little help to introduce my man Shane Snoots here today. So ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the Chappelle Show is Mr. Silky Johnson. Well, if it isn't Shane Snoots, the most diabolical hater this side of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. Shane hates on everybody and everything. So if you're watching this episode today, make sure you hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your grandma, because he's hating everybody up in here. And so without further ado, I think it's time to say, welcome back to the Prop Culture Podcast. I am your host, Matt Trader, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me to my left, the man that Silky just introduced, Mr. Shane Snoots. Shane, what's up, everybody?
Hate.
So look, I figured, today we would kind of get into, since last week we talked a lot about the influence that social media has on culture today. Mm-hmm. We didn't really grow up in the era of social media, but there's a lot of things that have influenced our life and have kind of made us who we are. And especially, I know you, man, you don't ever hold back your thoughts. Yeah. You're always 100%. This is how I feel, and I respect that. Yeah. So, but what I want to know is like, what are some of the influences that kind of made you the way you are? That kind of, I'm trying to tap into the psyche of you, man. What's up?
Influence-wise, it's so weird, talking about it. Like, this is, we're coming off the post, Father's Day stuff, and I think me and you had, a really good conversation. Maybe it was a Monday or so ago about it.
Yeah.
And I think, influence-wise, I think a lot of times, your father or even a family member, it goes it's like, it's the stereotype of you would say your mother, your father.
Yeah.
But I think it really goes unrecognized a lot of times. You being a father.
Yeah.
I don't think your kids will to learn and understand or appreciate what you do for them every day.
Yeah.
To make sure they have the life they have, right?
Yeah.
Until you're older, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So influence wise, as a kid, you grow up thinking you want to be I want to be a pro wrestler. I want to be a whatever, you fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, it's not until you're older you realize what really influenced you was the way you were brought up. The way you and again, that can be the music you listen to, that can be the movies you watch, who you hung out with, all that stuff. But I'm generalizing because we're coming off of the Father's Day stuff, and it's one of those things where, my father worked 3 jobs growing up to provide. He was never really home. Yeah. But he was always there, when he needed to be.
Absolutely.
But it was one of those things where, I think fathers don't get as much recognition as Mother's Day, because your mother is the nurturer. She's there for you. She makes sure that you're taken care of, and that's their role. But fathers often get overlooked in that aspect, but they teach you these valuable lessons of family, of what you do or what you have to do to make sure that your family is always moving forward, always taken care of. So I think that's a huge part of influencing you, or at least me as when I'm now older, an older adult. As a kid, I didn't see it that way, I didn't view the world the same way through that lens. But as I get older, I appreciate a lot more things than I did when I was younger. Yeah. Because it's just different. You see the world differently, and you can see it from the perspective of, oh man, I have to go do this today. Yeah. It's not a choice. To wake up and to go, work and try to bring home the bacon or the bread. That's not something it's optional. Yeah. You have to do that. And then you have to find time for everything in between that, and that's the part where it's like you realize the real heroes. The Bronx Tale is the best kind of comparison.
Yeah, Sonny.
When he's like the real man, the real working man gets up every day. That's the real man.
Absolutely.
And that's really what it comes down to, is like you realize that movie holds a lot of weight into what it is, in terms of influencing you. Like you just influencing how you grow up is all based on who's in your life. I firmly believe that. I don't know Biggie Smalls. I don't know. I don't know Tupac.
Yeah.
I don't know Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I can look at them through a lens on a TV and say, man, I want to be just like them.
Yeah.
But then it's like as I grew up, I meet some of these people, not Biggie or Tupac, but you meet your celebrity people that you grew up idolizing.
Yeah.
And you're like, these people are dirtbags.
Yeah.
Like these people.
Well, we don't know if they're all. We don't really know them, but we don't know if they're
like,
dirtbags. But I get what you're saying.
I'll give you a great analogy.
Yeah.
Everyone. If you talk from our era, let's discount what came out the last 3 years. Bill Cosby was America's dad.
Yeah.
We idolized him as America's dad, and then all of this comes out, and you realize you idolized someone you knew nothing about. Yeah. And that's what I think, like the appreciation of what is in front of you, the 6 inches in front of you, the people that are in your life, the people that are there for you, really appreciate that because they're the ones molding you.
I agree
right?
with you. Yeah. I tell you, it's funny. You talk about fathers and dads, and you talk about how you didn't realize it then, but you realize it now. And I think it goes back to the prodigal son story, right? The prodigal son has returned. I think that story kind of is probably even meant more mentally than it is just physically, because mentally you do stray for a long period of time. I know as a teen, young teen, into my 20s, I was about as far from my dad as you could possibly get as far as attitude, and as I got older and started to mature, I realized how great this man was. Not that I didn't know. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, man. Like I'm fortunate enough to have the dad I have, and I actually have good dad guilt sometimes because my dad is such a great man, and that's no bullshit. And I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it's for real. I mean, he's just a genuine good person. Will do anything for you. Doesn't ask for anything. Doesn't even want people to know it. He doesn't need people to know it. But my thing about my dad is it's funny because you naturally think that, you're going to be like your father, right? And my dad's real handy, and I'm probably the least handy person you will ever meet in your life. And he's always there to help with anything I have. Like he wants to help. He's like, you got a job? Yeah, I can, do this. I could do that. But I look back at that and I'm like, there's a lot of ways that I am like my father. And it's one of the main things is my dad is probably like the most reasoning person ever. Like whenever there's conflict with anything, I always kind of go to my dad because he's pretty grounded on his approach with things. Don't get me wrong, he has his opinions, but he's always very grounded with, well, let's think about this and let's think about that. And so, I think I've very much try to take his reasoning skills from him, and I'm obviously not perfect on that. Nobody is. But I think that's like when we have conversations and I'm like, let's be intellectually honest for a minute, right? Like the last episode, I think it's because my dad's in my mind like that, because I've watched how he's approached things. And then like you talk about hard work. My dad didn't have a college degree. This man literally out of high school worked for a small electrical company, Pote Electric at Delmar. No degree. And all he did was just work his ass off every day, did the right thing. Next thing you know, he's taking a job at the power plant in Delmarva Power. The year I was born, like 1981. He goes to work for Delmarva Power in the power plant, sweating, working. It just, in the probably worst conditions you could ever work on, 100-degree temperatures. You know what I mean? And he just kept working and working. Next thing you know, he literally wound up running the entire Delmarva Power, now what is it? Exelon, it was Pepco one time, run the whole facility with no college degree. This just pure hard work. And look, when I was growing up, he was out working nights to try to supplement the income just so he could still provide. And so I saw those things. And even though that I don't, work in manual labor like that, which he wound up with a desk job, but either way, even though I don't work, manual labor, like I see his work ethic and I try to apply that to what I do. Yeah. You know, it just so happens God give me the gift to talk and, you know, to kind of work with my mind more so than with my hands.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out for my wife when she wants things done around the house.
Right.
But luckily I got a good dad that will come over and help at any time on a moment's notice. So, you know, you're right, man. I mean,
and I think a lot of the influences, it comes to like, for me at least, you know, you look at your father and you go, and at least I'm speaking for my father, and you know, I know there's other, but they grew up in an era where their fathers weren't what they are now either.
Yeah.
It was worse than what we had.
You're
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and generationally, fathers were never the ones that were like nurturers. They were the disciplined. They were, you know, the ones, the breadwinners. They weren't really home a lot, you know. So you have to look at it from the context that they didn't know what being a father was like either.
Yeah.
Because again, we're in a different world now. And again, I always make fun of this new world that we're in because, you know, I lived by the rules of the hard knocks growing up with my household.
Yeah.
But it's like you can never blame anyone if that's how they were taught.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they were taught a certain way, or if that's what his influences growing up is seeing his father.
Yep.
Right? So seeing his father, he's doing a pretty damn good job, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, all things given, right? And I think that's where it's like it wasn't until, man, like I had like an epiphany, like my mid-20s.
It's about when I think everybody has, like every man probably has an epiphany around that time.
I think we all hit this stage where we want to grow up, like where we're not going out every weekend to the bars anymore. We're like trying to take everything serious, and I think that's when it's like we then start to realize, like, okay, we are like I think that's when I was like, dude, I'm like my father.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, and then it became very important for me to like actually be self-aware of those things that I needed to work on.
Yeah.
That he didn't work on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because he didn't know any better.
Yeah.
He didn't have my mother. You know, he had as a wife, but he didn't have as a mother, he didn't have that.
And let's be honest, so, the woman always plays a big role in evening the man out. So my mom, especially with my father, I mean, they're a unit. They're straight up a unit.
Well, that's what, and
it's crazy.
But they taught me what family is really the most important thing in this world.
Yeah. And
like without that, you got nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and your word means everything.
Yeah.
And without that, if you don't have your word to stand on, nobody believes you.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
Yeah.
You have all the money in the world, but if no one believes what the hell you're talking about, or you're saying, or you're selling, then what does it matter? Yeah. And that's the thing. That typically comes from people who are hardworking middle class people who go, hey, I'm going to pay you on Friday. I got you. Don't worry. You know? Those people, that's all they have.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like you talk about that because I talked about you being like really open-minded. Like whatever you're thinking, you're usually saying. I don't know if that's always a good thing or a bad thing, but the thing is people know that you're probably not going to say anything behind their back that you wouldn't say to their face. Yeah. And that's how my mother has always been. Yeah. And so, you know, my mom, man, like, you know, I want to talk about my dad, and I'm sure you want to do the same thing as well. But, you know, I got to give my mom so much credit because his reasoning and his kind of mild manner my dad is, you know, my mom's the complete opposite. She's 100. I mean, not that she won't reason with you, but she is opinionated as hell. She's 100 miles an hour. She's aggressive as hell, you know, and she is competitive. And honestly, I think those two things have kind of balanced me out. Yeah. You know, they kind of play tug of war with my mind a little bit sometimes because I'm all the way over here, and my dad's kind of bring me back here. But my mom, man, like she's always kept me for reaching more. Yeah. Right. And so like no matter what I've done in life, no matter if it's a sport, if it's a test, college, selling real estate. You know, if I call my mom and be like, oh yeah, I just, you know, made this like $4 million deal, she'll be like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm proud of you, son, but why didn't you do this one? That was $6 million or whatever. You know what I mean? Not to that degree, but, and so I've always felt like there was something more that I've had to try to reach for in life because she's never really ever gave me the comfort level of the finish line.
Yeah.
She's always kept that carrot in front of me like the horse.
Yeah.
And so it's always kept me wanting more. You know, it's like what they say, shoot for the moon, you might land on a star. That's kind of how my mom is, you know.
Well, and I think with your situation is the opposite. Like it's the opposite. My father is the hothead. He will just say whatever and do what, you know. My mother is very calculated, very, very nurturing. Like growing up, you know, I was the youngest out of the three, and I don't want to say I did no wrong because I did. But to her, I was always, you know, I never did. You know what I mean? She always saw the ability. That's what she taught me. The ability, and that's what like I've learned now. The ability to look at somebody and see the good in them. Yeah. Because I used to not. I used to look at someone and just point out their, like, I'd be like, fuck this person. You know? Yeah. And now it's the absolute opposite. Like, I give people more than one chance. Yeah. You know, which never happens before. Like before, I used to be like, oh, done, move on. Yeah. Fuck these people. But now it's the opposite where I'm like, they don't know what they're, you know, listen, they don't know what they're doing, you know? Yeah. They don't understand. And that, it comes from the view of kind of being compassionate and understanding that you're not the only thing, you know. Yeah. In my mind, that might be the only thing that's going on. Yeah. But not in theirs. Yeah. Not in theirs, you know. Because from my father's perspective, it's like, this son of a bitch cut me off. Like, what do you know, this is what, like, it's on you know, it's. You butt heads with your dad? Growing up, me and my father we butted heads all the time. We have such a great relationship now. But, and this is where it comes to like what I wanted to do as a man or growing up after I moved out and did everything. It was like I was always searching for my parents' approval or being proud, you know, being proud. Because
I know 100%
when you're a fuck up as a kid, and I'll say that pretty blatantly. Like
I understand that, man.
As a kid, I was not the ideal child to raise. Yeah. What you're searching for when you're going through stuff, you're really trying to get the approval of your father. And once you get that, what I realized is you've got it. You know, it's there. You just got to keep it, right? But what keeps me going every day is almost, and this sounds so like, again, cliche. It's like, because last week we talked about how the influencers, and I went in on how like all these real estate agents or salespeople are now motivational speakers and they're like 10 toes down and all this shit. And it's like, I don't think I need any of that. What motivates me every day is me. Like, I want to be physically better. I want to be physically, mentally, spiritually, like, better as a person. Yeah. And
some people do need that, though. You know, honestly, in fairness, I get.
But I'm speaking from my perspective of when that stops for me. Then I'm done.
I know what you mean.
My time has come. When I no longer have the drive to wake up every morning at 4 a.m. or 3:45. And do the best I can do that day and be better and work on whatever I did wrong the day before, right? Like,
well, that's self-motivation.
But that's me searching to be better. And I mean that from taking from what I've learned as in my years of life and trying to be better every day. And that influences me. What my past is, has influenced me to do what I do today. And that's not being, I don't want that to come off in like a narcissistic way. It's almost like I don't want to relive any of the dumb shit I've done in my life. So it's taking away that stuff and being like, how do I make myself better every day? Because I do want to give back. I do want to, anytime I can help someone in any aspect, I will. And that's just, if it's knowledge, and again, we don't have to get started on this topic because, you know, there's nothing more annoying than being outside of Wawa and like someone's asking you for $1 and then you're like, I'll get you a sandwich. And they're like, I don't want the fucking sandwich. You know, I want the $1. And you're like, just tell me you want the beer.
I will say this.
Just tell me you want a fucking ice cold, you want malt liquor
I don't want to
get that for you.
I don't want to stray. I did ask a guy one time, what do you want? And he was like, I really just want a pack of cigarettes. I was like, I would literally went into Wawa, got him a fresh pack, and brought it out. It was awesome.
I respect
But let's not go too far into that.
Dude, here's the thing. I'll respect that too. But you know what? Like, I have to get the story out now. I'm not gonna lie. There's a guy who, I don't know. Everybody's seen him at this point in Salisbury. One day I'm driving past, I think it's like Pizza City, okay?
Yeah.
Dude has a cowboy hat, cowboy buckle on, and like there's a kid in this wheelchair, and he looks like he needs a wheelchair. Like obviously he looks something disabled, something's wrong with him.
Yeah.
And this dude has a sign that's like, help us out, right? Well, I'm like, this is wild. Like, because this kid's like, he's letting this kid roll around into the garbage pail. Like, he's not even watching. He's just standing on the street corner with the sign. Meanwhile, this kid who's like, he might be mentally disabled. I don't know. Like, I have no idea because the kid in the wheelchair is literally gone.
Yeah.
Like, he's gone. Like, the chair is not locked in. He's just rolling down the hill at this point. And this dude's trying to get money. So, like, 2 days later, I shit you not, 2 days later, this same dude is on the corner, right, on South Salisbury, right where that Rofo is.
Yeah.
And he's in the wheelchair in the same gear.
What?
Doug, he's in the same cowboy gear.
Now, I will say this,
he's in the
man.
wheelchair. And I'm like, dude, that's the shit that I can't stand. I'm like, come on, dude, listen.
Dude,
the hustle, like.
My biggest pet peeve biggest pet peeve in the world is anybody who tries to take advantage of anything for handicap. Because I grew up with a cousin who I talked about on another episode who was handicapped. He had muscular dystrophy. This kid was 8 years older than me. Yeah. We would go play games at you don't remember this, the old Salisbury Billiards back in the day. They had an arcade in there.
Yeah.
We would go play games. I would be like 12 years old. My 20-year-old cousin would fall on the ground and not be able to pick himself back up.
Yeah.
And I, at 12 years old, would have to literally pick this 20-year-old up.
Yeah.
And so to this day, like anybody who parks in a handicap spot, look, if it's an accident, I get it. If you can't see it. But if anybody if I'm with somebody, I'd be like you can ask my wife. Like, I literally will get in borderline fights with people over this. Yeah. And honestly, it may not affect anything. It may just be a run in, run out. But it's such a pet peeve of mine. It drives me so crazy.
Because it's rude, man.
It's programmed in my mind because that moment influenced me. Yeah, it influenced me.
It influenced to how you react to you seeing something in real life. I could watch The Notebook or whatever dumbass movies, in terms of like about anything, right? Yeah. But like it's different when it happens to you. It's different. It's when it's right in front of you. And I think influencing, we spend so much time glorifying people that go make billions of dollars to pretend to be people. Yeah. Instead, there are people that are right in front of you in your life that influence you every single day to do what you do and be who you are, right? And that's like the thing that we just forget. We neglect to forget about is that we put, even us being on a podcast, we see other podcasts out there. We put other people on pedestals all the fucking time. Yeah. And I have no idea who they are, but we get to know them through this podcast, right? Just like everyone's doing right now. Yep. Is they're getting to know us through a podcast, right? But I think everyone, if I had one thing to say is like everyone stop for 5 minutes. Look in front of you.
Just appreciate the people around you.
Look in front of you because I can guarantee
whether it's
who you are, good, bad, or indifferent, you've been influenced by people around you. Yeah. And that's sometimes a bad thing, right? Yeah. Like there's a bad thing where you see people who have grown up with alcoholic parents and they can't get out of that cycle because they were influenced by that cycle. Yeah, yeah. And the same thing with drugs. And that's just, we all have to acknowledge that we're all, it's not just the video games, it's not just the TVs and everything else. It's literally the stuff in front of you. And we all pay attention to that. As kids, we are programmed to watch what is going on.
You know, it's funny you talked about that too, because like we talk about like the motivational speaker and everybody delivering the message nowadays. And, look, there's definitely a lot of it that goes on. But, in my opinion, I know I grew up listening to probably, a lot of music that the lyrics maybe didn't influence me in the best way, right? I watched a lot of movies that probably didn't influence me in the best way, right? So in fairness, it's like there's nothing wrong with people trying to motivate other people and stuff like that. That's why I always try to, again, comes back to me trying to, play devil's advocate or just trying to rationalize, those thoughts a little bit.
But don't you think it comes down to, this is my question though. I think it comes down to understanding who they are, right? Like you would never, okay, Will Smith has played multiple characters.
Yeah.
Great Emmy Award, everything, Oscar, everything, right? But the dude's personal life is a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Do you want to be like Will Smith's personal life?
I don't know. We only see what we see on TV
the red
though.
Table.
We only
his
see
wife is literally getting fucking busted down by other dude. That's not anybody's dream. All I'm saying is we glorify too many people, and we can sit here and say Will Smith influenced. It's okay to say a movie. You watched a movie and it influenced the way you did. You moved. You did something like this. But within perspective.
At the end of the day, though, I'm with you. At the end of the day, though,
because it's a character.
We don't know these people.
But
like you about Cosby. I never looked at Cosby ever as Cosby. I always looked at him as Heathcliff Huxtable, and Heathcliff Huxtable represented something great. But he represented a great American family that taught great values. Yeah. And it does suck that you have to associate, the one with the other. Though. It's a character. What I'm saying is I don't know the people. My relationship is with the character. It's with the music. It's with the movie. I don't know these people. I never will know them. I don't even care to know these people.
No, but that's what
you know what I mean. That's just how I am. Like I don't care.
It's okay to be influenced by a character.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say I was influenced by Pikachu, like a character. Like it's a fucking character. All I'm saying is the people in your life really truly are the ones who influence you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we can sit here and say, listen to Biggie Smalls talk about slinging dope on the corner when you were a kid, and that's all you know about. That 100%, I get it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But also, let's go a step deeper. That kid, what's his home life?
Yeah.
What's he seeing at home? Because he has to fight for that. He has to go into the streets to do that.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
So the influence is not just Biggie saying that.
Yeah.
It's his home life is the one. All I'm saying is, within perspective, we can put all of these characters on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But that's what they are.
Yeah.
They're fucking characters.
100%. I don't disagree with you on that.
But
in fairness, so there are, I think, this is called pop culture. I think there's a lot of things in pop culture that do influence us in a certain way. I know musically, I was influenced a lot by the music I listened to growing up, because I grew up in that segment of rock and roll where it wasn't cool to be commercial. It wasn't cool to be mainstream. It's no mystery I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look at Pearl Jam and how, their story and how they handled success and how they handled their band. Right. So you were probably, I don't know, when were you born?
90.
Okay, so when they came out in 91, there was, I don't think, anybody who blew up to the level they were at from about 91 to 93. I mean, it was mainstream.
The Buffalo Bills lost fucking back to back to back.
They blew up so mainstream that what they did was they said, look, there's no way if we keep going on this freight train at this level, we're going to be able to sustain long term.
Yeah.
So what they did was they completely blew up their entire model. They said, we're not going to write music to make hits. We're not going to write music for everybody else or to win Grammys. We want to write music that's true to ourselves. And they did everything they could to fight against the mainstream.
Yeah.
And so, and I look at myself, and Jay-Z's a lot like that. He wouldn't sign to a major label. You know what I mean? Like, he sold his records out of his trunk. He would not sign to the major label. He made them come to him. And I look at myself and I look at those type of influences from artists.
Let me ask you a question.
Hold on real quick. So I look at that and I look at it, I'm like, why do I always constantly fight against anything that's mainstream or too corporate? And I feel like there's a lot of that programmed in me because I grew up in a culture, Gen X.
Yeah.
And Generation X was all about fighting against, what was corporate, what was mainstream.
Yeah.
And today's generation, I don't feel like is like that too much because I feel like they fight more for the machine than against it. You know what I mean? Honestly, we fought against the machine. We did everything we could. So naturally, I've always walked the other way.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
Either
nowadays, I think dude, it's a mixed bag.
But I've always, as a person, I've always kind of kind of shied and went the other direction
Yeah.
or went the other way, or was like, I want to be more independent, you know what I mean, than mainstream or corporate. And I think that has a lot to do with my musical influences and the generation I grew up in.
But let me ask you a question. So growing up, was there anyone in your life that fought against the machine?
So it's funny you said that, right? So as I'm saying this, I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, but a lot of that comes back to my parents, because when I grew up, my parents weren't the parents who were politicking with all the other parents and to get me on the best little league team. They weren't going to the schools because I screwed up. And let me tell you something, I screwed up a lot. I was in and out of trouble all the time, but my parents weren't going there, sitting there trying to politic to get me out of trouble. They were the ones telling me I screwed up, and it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You don't disrespect the authority.
Yeah.
That they have the authority on you. So they were they were always putting my decisions on me. And so, I mean, I look and think about it, and why I don't like to play politics. Why don't I like to get subconsciously? It's probably my parents who made me like that, and I think it's these
you gravitated towards that mute. All I'm saying is, we as people, we subconsciously gravitate to the stuff because we've seen it. Though we've already seen it. You know, I mean,
I think you just took something I never really thought about.
Dude, I'm fucked you.
I think you did, man. I think you got me on that one.
Put your brain in a pretzel already.
I think you did, yeah.
So, because I think about it, my father I gravitated to Stone Cold. We talked about this.
Yeah.
But my father was the same way. Like, he always fought against this. Like, he always was like, no, I'm the hardworking blue collar man. You know, dude, I loved what was the show? Married with Children growing up. I loved Married with Children growing up.
Yeah.
And it was just funny because all of these things resonated, but then like I could also watch something else that reminds me of my mother.
Yeah.
And I it's like we're always looking for these connections as we go through life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing, like subconsciously we don't think about it, but we have connections to everything.
Yeah.
Because of what we grew up like. Or what we've been through, right?
Yeah.
And something pushes you towards that, right? Like you said, I'm fighting against the machine. I always feel like I'm fighting against the machine, and it's because subconsciously you've already been taught that.
Yeah.
Like your parents taught you, like, you're not doing this. This is not what we're gonna do. So you gravitated towards that more. And I noticed, like, when I was a kid, like we talked about like the Incredible Hulk. I didn't know who the fucking Incredible Hulk was, but I watched it as a kid and I knew my dad loved it. So like over time, I love the Incredible Hulk. Like that's my favorite superhero. Like weird wrestling, all of these things.
Yeah, and you think about wrestling, you think about the generational thing. Think about who was popular in the 90s.
Right.
Stone Cold, who pushed against the machine. That character.
Right, exactly.
Pushed against the machine. That's just that was that generation.
And even to your point, even more now, because we had this debate about Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold, but we talked about the biggest change in wrestling.
Yeah,
was Hulk Hogan turning heel.
Yeah,
and he was fighting against the machine. He was no longer the good guy. He was no longer going to sit there and say all this stuff. And that's when you like started resonating with him more. You were like, oh my gosh, this is my dude. Like from growing up as a kid, you were like the red and yellow goes to black and white, and he's Hollywood, and he's like, you know what, you guys are all this and that. And you were like, man. Yeah. This is fucking. He's fighting against this. Like he's saying screw you to all these people that basically booed him and told him he was because you got tired of him, because they got tired of the same thing. And that's the thing. We all have these influences that we might not have really thought about at the time, but if you think about it, they come from somewhere.
Yeah,
your sister, your brothers, your cousins, somebody influenced you to push you in this direction.
My cousin GW, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just me. He gave a lot of people their style, their swagger to run with. He knew how to talk to the girls. He knew what to wear. He knew what to dress.
Yeah.
You know, he was that guy. He knew how to dance.
Yeah.
You know, so I get a lot from him. You know, I've always got to give him a shout out on that.
Well, and I think
his little brother's the same way. You know,
But don't you think that's what I mean? We talk about style. We talk about what the clothes we wear. Like, dude, my parents didn't wear the shit I wear.
Yeah.
But like, I remember Tasha, my sister Tasha, and Brittany both wanting like these other clothes. And as a kid, I'm like 8 years old. I have no fucking idea, dude.
Yeah.
I will blow through a pair of tennis shoes. Like, if you give me Jordans, they will be crushed in 3 days. Like as an 8-year-old kid, you know what I mean? But I remember like when they started fashion and started doing all this stuff, that's when I was like, I want to know about this more. Like, take me shopping. See, I want to see, what are you supposed to wear? You know what I mean? Like I paid attention to that stuff because I was like, they think it's cool.
Yeah.
Like they think this stuff, they think Timberlands are cool, you know? Like they're like, I'm like, what's a Tim boot? You know, I want to know what this is. And I think, again, that led me down the path of being like, now as an adult, I go out to a store or go online and I buy whatever I like my fucking mind wants. Like I mean, you know, I'll wear whatever at this point and I'll try to make it look good. I'll figure it out. Yeah. But I have my own style of what I do. I'm not ever trying to keep up with the quote unquote trends. Yeah. If something I like, I buy, and I think that's the same thing with you. Yeah. I like because we wear the traditional suits. What I was
gonna say is like I think you take this kind of this soup that was created for you as far as influence goes. There's a lot of people in your pot of soup that influence you, and all those things kind of made you yourself, created yourself, and now you're just being you.
Yeah.
And you know, some of the things that may have influenced you, like you said before, might have not been the best influence. So you went the other direction on that. Yeah. You know, but you know, and so that's,
and maybe the characters that we speak of, like that we talk about, the Stone Colds of the world, the Pearl Jams, all these things. These are the spices in that soup.
Your mom's, your dad's,
because the meats of it is is the things that were around you.
Yeah,
and then everything else, the other stuff, the other toppings that you put in, is the characters that we saw that we resonated with. We go, oh man, I like this because why does this? It's the same reason why I think they say, like, there's a study that they say if you smell like a crayon or something like that, like a crayon.
Yeah.
And I'm probably saying that like really fucked up. It's probably my Baltimore Western Maryland side of it.
Crayon, right? Crown. I call it crown. I call it crown too.
Crown, whatever.
Crown. It's crown.
Water. I think they say if you smell it, it's like it gives you the same like release that like a drug does or something, because it takes you back to like that time
I can see that.
Of when it was simpler, like, you know what I mean? So like, and we talked about it, I think a little bit, but like the whole nostalgia stuff, that's why people love to like, they go and get like a glass bottle Coke, or they go get a Lunchable or a fucking pizza from the same place they were when they're, because we've built this shit up in our heads from kids. So it's like the same, it will always be good to us. We could eat at the dough roller on the boardwalk, and it could be the greasiest fucking pizza. But if you had it as a kid,
it was
it's the best pizza in the world because you remember all the memories from it, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, I mean, when we talk about influencers, there's so many different things that we can talk about with the influencing, and influencers. But I think it all bases down, at least in my mind, to what was around you when you grew up.
Absolutely. Because
it just spiderwebbed from there. You know, it just went out from there.
You know, it's funny because like we're talking about, you know, my dad and my kids, and I think about my kids all the time, and I think every man, I think, wants their kid to be like them, right?
Yeah.
Well, my kids love my dad, like obsessed with my dad. Like if it's between Daddy and Pop Donnie, they're rolling with Pop. And there's times where I'm like, you know, but honestly, honestly, man, like when I really step back and think about it, I'm like, dude, if my kids grew up to be like my dad, like I would almost rather be like my dad than me, straight up, because I know the man he is, and I'm not saying I'm not a good man. You know what I mean? I don't know that I'm perfect, but I have a lot more faith in what they would be doing, man, because my dad's.
They come from a generation or an era that's more pure than ours, like. Yeah. And I say that with the context of like, dude, I mean, they still think smoking like weed is bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or for madness.
Like they're like, dude, you talk to somebody about doing a CBD oil, they're like, you're trying to get high? Yeah, you're trying to get high off the CBDs now? This is what we're doing? Like, you talk to my dad. I take melatonin CBD. My dad will literally be like, you're trying to get high at night, aren't you? It's like, no, Dad, there's edibles for that. Like, this is just strictly for sleep.
It goes back to the pop culture, though. I mean, look at the pop culture they grew up with. Listen to the music they grew up with. Well, right? And the music, they couldn't, the FCC wouldn't allow them to say, you know, shit, damn, fuck, all that stuff, you know, but they were literally, the funny thing is they were talking about the same stuff. You hear the song Run Around Sue?
Yeah.
Run Around Sue is I mean, that's about what they say today, a thought, right? Right? Yeah, like you think about the song back in the
still say
so check this out. Back in the day, it's the same music, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, you had The Traveling Man by Ricky Nelson.
Yeah.
You had California Girls by the Beach Boys. Then you had Girls, Girls, Girls by Jay-Z.
Yeah.
You had what was it? I'm going to the chapel and what's ours? I'll meet you at the altar and it's the same music. It's just the lyrics are a lot more brass. And I think that plays a big role in the influence on how they acted, you know, the things that they say, how they talk versus how we talk. You know what I mean? Like, I think it plays a big role in that. We're a lot more free. We're a lot more liberal in our speech. We're in our thought process.
Yeah,
you know, their artists, they might have been smoking dope. Right,
yeah.
But they weren't talking about it, or they were using subliminal messages to talk about it.
Well, it just everything goes back to like everything that you do. From just learning from my parents is like you just don't talk about shit. You just don't talk about it. Like it's like in this era, everybody, dude, they want to get online and be like, I just smoked a fucking blunt with Chief Key. I don't know, and it's like. Well, no one gives a shit. Like, I don't want to know. I don't care. Like, but they want to tell. Like, everybody wants to. Like, oh, I was at the club last night. And I drank a bottle of Henny in the VIP. Or I got this and we did bottle service. It's like, dude, cool deal. But like, this is like where it's like I go back to like, and luckily I have a friend group that is same way. It's not that we're up to no good. It's just we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like when we go out, we just want to enjoy each other's company.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what we do. Whenever we're together, we're never really on our phones. We're just sitting there vibing out and we're watching whatever it is or doing whatever. And I think it's because like that's what we were taught. Like it's just kind of like enjoy what's in front of you.
Yeah.
We didn't have cell phones. So, and then also you didn't also want to incriminate yourself on something you didn't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then you're in a fucking fight for your life for no reason.
Well, nowadays you can say the right thing and it'd be the wrong thing, or the wrong thing and it'd be the right thing. There's a lot of blurred lines nowadays.
The problem is because everyone has their own version of a story now, and there's always a little spice added to it. So if you tell your version and it doesn't add up with Johnny's version, which doesn't add up with TJ's version, all of a sudden now you're a liar.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're a liar.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're in trouble with whoever the hell is your mom, dad, girlfriend, whoever.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everybody's trying to add like, well, we were out and this girl came over and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But somebody adds it to it. And that's where it's like for all of us boys that my group of boys that we all go out together still and we all hang out, we're all uber respectful of each other's relationships that we have with our women and everything else. And I think that's a part of being an adult. We all respect that, and we all aren't like trying to like post pictures of going out and doing all that because obviously it's not important to us.
I don't know, Shane. I saw your picture on your reels yesterday.
Well, listen, hold on. To be clear, I was pretty proud of myself for 12 weeks. Imagine.
I'll give it up to you,
12,
man. Yeah,
12 weeks, dude. I'm 31. Daddy's 31.
Yeah.
Daddy's 31, and he's in literally the best shape. I've ever
man.
been.
No, dude. Be proud of that. Be proud of it, man. I'm just fucking with you.
I said I would never do it again.
Yeah.
Because, I was like, I'm an old man now. I shouldn't be doing this. But I did it. I did it because after you do it when you do 12 weeks, and then I'm literally doing another 12 weeks now. So, but I'm doing it trying to do it completely different, like a whole thing. And, but doing 12 weeks and staying strict on the calories and all of this shit, it's gruel. Like literally it fucks with your mind. I don't think I've ever, and it was just a test to see if I could do it. Like I really wanted to test myself to see if I could do it. And obviously the results are there, the proof's in the pudding, but it was literally, it's the hardest thing. Like I didn't sleep. Like there was nights I didn't sleep. Yeah. Because it was like, I'm going to bed hungry. I'm eating like 1,600 calories. Yeah. That was eating 1,600 calories, and it's because you go off the macros and this and that. But like when you're going to bed, for me, dude, I'm a big boy. Yeah. Okay. I mean,
it's hard to sleep when you're hungry too.
Dude, I know. I just toss and turn, and dude, I'm sweating. Yeah. Dude, you sweat. I've got the 68 in the house, dude. It's miserable. Yeah. So no, I think that. I mean, again, But also to that point, what influenced me about that is like, I know growing up, so my father has type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where I like am very conscious of my health.
Yeah.
Like I want to be consistently so, but I also want to challenge myself. And like, how do you challenge yourself if you stay in the same routine? You know what I mean?
Dude, it's funny, man. You talk about that. So like that reminds me of my dad a little bit, right? Yeah. So not with diabetes, but you know, my grandfather, my father's father, he had a drinking problem. Yeah. So my dad won't drink at all because he watched this. So he doesn't drink because he watched the way my grandfather was. And my grandfather was he was a great pop-up. Yeah. I mean, he really was. In fact, you know, it's funny, man. Like I feel like my two grandfathers are huge influences in my life. Yeah. You know, you talk about when you see the two sides of me, like that I deliver on a regular basis, where one minute I'm dressed up like an old lady or He-Man, and the next minute I'm, you know, talking deep into the commercial real estate game. Yeah. That really is both of my grandfathers, because my dad's dad was this funny. I mean, he was probably one of the funniest people I've ever known in my life. Like, he was just hilarious, goofy as could be, always wanted to make people laugh. And then my mom's dad, he was just straight up businessman. You know what I mean? And he just, I mean, no nonsense businessman, you know, all about how I can figure out how to make a dollar, support my family, take care of people. And so I really think both of those have kind of yinged and yanged out to balance me out as a person in a way too. So, you know, but I could see why you would be the way you are on the diabetes situation, or, you know, with the health situation, knowing all the struggles your dad went through.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
he still deals with it. And so it's like, you know, and again, but that goes without saying that I'd say this all the time to everyone. I'm like, dude, I'm going to live my life to the fullest extent. Yeah. But also I'm going to be happy doing it. Yeah. And I'm going to be healthy. Because you ever notice, like, people who want to get on diets and do all this stuff, if they're out eating, they never enjoy eating while they're out, because they're always thinking about how uncomfortable they are, which is sad. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which makes me sad. Yeah. You know, like, when I hear it, I'm like, dude, you shouldn't hate going out and enjoying food. Yeah. It's part of life. Yeah. But also there's a balance to life, right? Yeah. Like, we have to do things that counterbalance that, right? Yeah. So that's my whole goal, is finding the goal, like the balance between I eat very strictly throughout the week. Yeah. On the weekends, I have a couple cheat meals within my parameters to do it, and that's it. You know what I mean? And I eat literally the same thing every day, which, again, it's repetitive. Fortunately, I am a creature of habit, so it doesn't get tiring to eat filet mignon and potatoes every night, and, you know, protein pancakes and all the other bullshit every day. Like, it doesn't tire me. But some people, they have to have different shit. Yeah. I don't, you know, so everyone's different. But I think influence-wise, one thing is, once you start, you know, my mom always told me, like, once you start something, you never quit. That's how my parents told. They told me the same thing. Yep. And I remember to this day, I wanted to quit youth league football because it was so hard. Yeah. I think I got like a stinger, like the first day. Yep. And you have to run a lot, and I was like, man, I just don't. And then I was like, 5 or 6, and my mother, I'll never forget. My mother was like, "No, we paid for it, so your ass has got 12 more weeks." That's how my parents were too. And man. Didn't matter how bad it was; they were like, "You're gonna finish it." But then the thought of letting my mother down, yeah, and that was the one thing that I always go back to. There's moments. Dude, I've forgotten more shit in my life than I can remember. Yeah. Even though I have a pretty good memory. Like, my boys were talking about stuff from high school, and I was like, dude, I can't even remember some of the stuff that we're talking about. But I can remember times when I was in elementary, if I let my mother down or my father down, I can remember exactly the day, time, place, moment, everything around the surround. It's like almost I go back into that place. And it's so weird because those hang with me. Yeah. But they also pushed me to be better. Dude, it's funny you said that, man. Like, because I remember, so I barely graduated high school. Like barely
graduated high school, like 1.6 GPA. Like they were,
oh damn,
they were nervous. They were like nervous about handing me my diploma. I don't know, plus minus approximate. It was pretty. It was bad, whatever it was.
2.0 to get through.
It was whatever it was.
You had to wait at 1.6.
It was pretty bad. I barely graduated high school, right? But I wanted to go to college, so I somehow through connections, networking, figured out one college that would take me.
Yeah,
one college. So I'm going to try to give you the abridged version of this, right?
DeVry University.
No, right? No, Dean College in Massachusetts. So I go there, right? I'm going to give you the abridged version. Someday I'll tell the whole story. I go there, wind up getting in some trouble on the very first day of school. And I mind you, I had to go there for the summer to actually get in because they made me go to a program to get in, and I got in trouble during that program.
Oh, Lord.
Right? Yeah, like... Yeah, so either way. Well, so anyhow, so the very first day of school, I get in trouble, and lo and behold, they're like, we already told you you're on probation.
Yeah.
Okay, now you have literally 6 months. If you get in trouble any time frame within the next 6 months, you're out. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, knowing me, how I was back then, I was like, this ain't gonna last 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I knew it, right? So I was like, I'm gonna have to leave before I ruin the one opportunity I had with the one school who will take me.
Right.
So I called my parents, told them to come get me, come pick me up. So my mom and dad come literally after they just dropped me off and unpacked all my stuff, 3 flights of stairs. They come back the very next day and pick me up in Massachusetts in the whole ride home. Now my mom and me have butted heads my whole life. Yeah. Like we still do to this day. We have that Italian mom-son relationship where we're going to battle, but we're going to hug afterwards, right? Dude, when we were on, I bet she said 10 words to me, right? After she yelled at me a little bit on the ride home, they barely talked. And then we got home, she was like, you wanted this? You got it. And I sat home for a year, and I was like sitting around, didn't know where my life was going. And I remember just being so upset about the way I made my mom feel. You talk about, you want that approval from your parents. On Mother's Day, the following Mother's Day, I was like, I'm going back to college. I remember showing up on Mother's Day after a very long, it was a late night. Like I had a late night epiphany that night. Like there was some liquid thoughts going through my mind. And so I had this crazy epiphany. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to school. You know, and so I showed up at my parents' house, and like the afternoon on Mother's Day, my mom's like, where is he at? It's Mother's Day. My son ain't showed up. Showed up with a big card, some flowers with this note. I'm going back to college. And I would not stop. The minute I went back, reworked my whole GPA. I went from the kid who barely graduated to a 3.6 GPA for a period of time. It didn't always last like that, right? And wound up transferring wherever pretty much I wanted to go. But I wouldn't stop till I got a bachelor's degree. And I'm not saying that college is as valuable as a lot of people think it is, but to me it was, because it was that one moment in time where I was like, I'm going to do what I told you I was going to do, and I'm going to finish this because my parents always told me that I had to finish whatever I started. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that I did that. So yeah, I can understand, where you're coming from. It's
always that way. And I think as men or as men or women, as long as we have something that keeps us honest, that keeps us looking forward, we'll always be good, man. Like I think there's you always have to have a North Star, and when you lose that North Star,
that's a good
if you don't have it, you're fucking done, man. Yeah, you're fucking done. There's nothing that keeps you honest anymore. So I know we're getting the wrap up here, so I'll cut it short, but. Yeah, man, keep your North Star. As long as you can.
I like that. Keep your North Star.
As long as you keep your North Star, man, you'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I care about in life. Yeah. It's about being, literally, it's just about being honest. Yeah. And being a good person. And all that stuff comes with being honest. Yeah. Because when you can admit when you're wrong, you can admit when you've done something that you shouldn't have done. You can have an honest conversation when something isn't right. Yeah. It's always just being honest at that point in time. If you can do that, that is the key to everything.
I'm with you.
Is because that is where you find happiness and peace. Because you can be honest.
Absolutely.
I leave a conversation today, tomorrow with anybody in this room, and I say something, and if it's my honest opinion, if I don't talk to them ever again,
yeah,
I've left it the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
I didn't leave anything on the table.
Yep. You're pretty black and white when it comes to your thoughts. I operate in a gray area. That might have come from too many philosophy classes.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I like to get the shit out, man. I'm just like,
you definitely do. But I tell you, you said something earlier, and it's appreciate, what's around you, because that's what really shapes you. And honestly, if anybody's listening, it's not just, it might not be a conventional mom or dad. It might be your friend. It might be a mentor. It might be, people that you might be social media.
Yeah.
It might be the people that you get the motivational tips from on social media. Appreciate just that, because you never know where that influence is coming from. And I think everybody I really think is trying to help everybody nowadays. A little bit.
Well, I think there's more focus on mental health. There's more focus on people's psyche, and I think that's a good thing. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Is that it?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Cool. That's it.
All
what
right,
else
brother.
you got to say? Anything else?
No.
That's it.
We'll see y'all next week.
All right, y'all. Peace.